In this field blog number 10, you'll be seeing me deploying buoy number 10 at Barneo, which is the North Pole ice camp. We have augured or cut a 10-inch hole through the ice. It's about 1.8 meters thick at this point, and we're about halfway through the process of lowering the sensors on the cable down through the hole. There are 4 of us working on this. As you can imagine, once you've got the weight on the bottom of the cable and several of the sensors down, it becomes quite heavy, and we're trying to very slowly and carefully lower these sensors. So it does actually take a couple of us to accomplish this, and that's me in the blue, and I'm carefully laying out the sensors and feeding them to my colleagues. We're about 500 yards from the main camp at this point. The big white object is the surface float. This contains the batteries to power the satellite uplink. The data from this sensor rig uploads every hour, 24 hours a day. If the flow melts, then the float will be able to support the weight of all the sensors, and the whole rig will float. So that's great because we'll still continue to get data. This is just where we got one of the sensors a little bit stuck as it went down. I'm just rolling that float because I'm actually positioning the GPS and the satellite arrays so that they're facing upwards to help with the uplink. And we have a mark on the cable so we know exactly where it should enter the ice, and that's what we're just doing, positioning it. And then I'm holding the float by standing in front of it so that when my colleagues let go, the weight of the sensors doesn't pull the whole float over to the ice hole. The reason that we're keeping the float away from the hole is because we have some sensors that are positioned in the ice measuring light, and if that float is directly overhead, then they'll be shaded. So we painted it white, and it's offset about 1.5 meters from the ice hole. The last thing that we have to do is to anchor the float so that while the sensors are being frozen back in through that hole that we cut, the buoy won't slide and roll around on the ice. We're also worried about if it gets windy and the buoy gets pushed around, the surface float gets pushed around, so we're going to tether it to the ice using a strap and some ice screws. I'm just telling my colleagues there where I want the ice screws to go. Everything is made much more difficult when you try and work in the Arctic. It's cold, you're wearing gloves, it's hard to do any fine work. So we finished up anchoring the float, and now we're done. And I'm just going to take you on a quick tour so that you can see what the ice hole looks like with the sensors deployed. And that's it. This is the second buoy deployed this year, and this means my field work in the Arctic for this year is done. So hopefully I'll be back next spring.